In the quietest hours of the night, when the world has softened and even your thoughts begin to slow, there is a realm of reality that never raises its voice. It exists beneath surfaces, beneath certainty, beneath the idea that things must always make sense. Imagine something unimaginably small, so small it escapes shape, colour, and weight, moving not with urgency, but with patience. Tiny presences drifting, not rushing anywhere, not needing to arrive, they simply are. This is where our journey begins tonight, not with answers, but with a feeling. A sense that the universe, at its deepest level, prefers gentleness. Quantum physics often sounds sharp or complex when spoken aloud, but at its heart, it is a quiet science. It describes a world where nothing demands to be pinned down, where outcomes wait softly before unfolding, and where certainty is never forced. In this world, motion can pause without stopping, and stillness can be full of life. As you listen, you don't need to understand or remember anything. You only need to let these ideas drift past you, like light moving through a thin curtain. As the image of this unseen world settles, allow your breathing to find a slower rhythm. Each inhale arrives without effort. Each exhale leaves without resistance. The smallest elements of the universe move this way too, never strained, never hurried. And somewhere between those movements, there is room for rest. Welcome to AstraFlow. Here, science drifts like starlight, and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts slow down, your breathing find its rhythm, and your mind float through wonder. Whether you've just found this space for the first time, or you return night after night as part of your quiet routine, you're welcome here. Some listeners drift away within minutes. Others stay with the sound of the voice a little longer. There's no right way to listen, and if this calm journey brings you peace, you can gently support AstraFlow by liking this video or subscribing. It helps this quiet corner of the cosmos keep glowing. Quantum physics tells us that the universe is not built from solid things alone, but from relationships, chances, and soft rules that allow reality to remain flexible. Particles behave less like objects and more like questions waiting patiently for their moment. Nothing insists on being known all at once. Nothing demands your attention. In that sense, the quantum world is very much like sleep itself, approaching gradually, arriving gently, never announcing its presence. Tonight, you don't need to solve anything. You don't need to follow every idea. Let each thought pass like a wave that reaches the shore and fades on its own. The deeper we go, the quieter the language will become, until words feel less important than the spaces between them. Now, let's begin tonight's voyage into the quiet story of quantum physics. What if the universe, at its deepest level, was never meant to be fully known? Not hidden in a secretive way, not locked away behind complexity, but simply open. Open to many outcomes at once. Open to softness. Open to not deciding too quickly what something must be. This is the quiet question that lives beneath quantum physics, and tonight we let it rest gently in the background of our awareness. Most of our waking lives are built on certainty. Solid flaws, clear names, causes followed by effects. We grow comfortable believing that things are either this or that, here or there, now or later. Certainty feels safe. It gives shape to the day. But as night arrives, certainty begins to loosen. Thoughts wander, boundaries blur, and the mind becomes more willing to rest in between answers. Quantum physics invites a similar letting go. It asks us, very softly, what if reality itself does not insist on being exact? What if the universe does not demand precision, but instead allows things to remain unresolved for a while. In this view, not knowing is not a failure of understanding, it is a natural state. Imagine holding a question without trying to solve it, not pushing it away, not chasing it, simply allowing it to float nearby, like a lantern on still water. The question beneath quantum physics is not meant to keep you awake. It is meant to slow you down, to remind you that even the fabric of reality does not rush toward clarity. At the smallest scales, nature behaves less like a rule book and more like a suggestion. Positions are not fixed. Outcomes are not guaranteed. Events do not shout that they have happened. They whisper that they might. And somehow, from this gentle uncertainty, everything else emerges: stars, oceans, breath, and you. As you listen, notice how your body responds to this idea. Perhaps your shoulders drop a little. Perhaps your jaw softens. There is nothing you need to decide right now. Nothing you need to conclude. The universe itself is comfortable waiting, and you are allowed to be comfortable too. This question, what if certainty was never the goal, does not need an answer tonight. It only needs space. Let it settle beside you as your thoughts grow slower and less defined. Like the quantum world, you don't need to be pinned down to be real. You don't need to be precise to be whole. In the quiet, uncertainty becomes gentle, and gentleness becomes enough. Before equations, before experiments, before names and symbols, the quantum world is simply a description of how nature behaves when it is very small and very patient. It is not a strange or hostile place. It is not chaotic or loud. It is subtle. It is quiet. It moves like breath moves through sleep without asking for attention. At the quantum scale, the universe does not rush to become solid. It hesitates. It lingers. It allows many possibilities to exist at once, as if reality itself prefers to keep its options open. Instead of sharp edges, there are gradients. Instead of rigid paths, there are gentle ranges. Nothing is forced into being until it needs to be. You can imagine this world as a dimly lit ocean beneath the surface of everyday life. On the surface, waves look clear and defined, but below, everything is slower, softer, and interconnected. Oceans blend into one another, boundaries fade, and the water holds everything without effort. Quantum physics is simply our way of listening to that deeper ocean. There is no need to picture particles as tiny balls racing through space. That image belongs to a louder way of thinking. In the quantum world, particles behave more like tendencies. They lean toward places rather than arriving there. They hum with potential instead of declaring position. And when they do appear, they do so gently, as if emerging from a shared agreement with the moment. As you take another slow breath, notice how similar this feels to drifting towards sleep. Thoughts do not disappear all at once. They soften, they overlap, they lose their urgency. In the same way, quantum behavior does not replace the world you know. It supports it quietly from underneath, like a calm foundation you never need to see. This is not a world that needs to be mastered. It does not ask you to hold on to details or definitions. Tonight, it asks only that you listen with the same openness you bring to rest. The quantum world is not something separate from you. The atoms in your body follow these same gentle rules. The pauses between your breaths echo the pauses between quantum events. Nothing here is sharp. Nothing is demanding. The universe, at its smallest scale, is not busy proving anything. It is simply unfolding, moment by moment, without urgency. And as you continue listening, you may find that your own inner world begins to match that pace, slower, quieter, more forgiving. This is where our journey truly begins, not in complexity but in calm, not in answers but in ease. In the world we see each day, things appear smooth and continuous. Time flows forward, light fills a room evenly, sound fades gradually into silence. But beneath that familiar surface, the universe prefers to move in small, careful steps. Quantum physics reveals that reality does not always flow like a river. Sometimes it arrives like droplets. Energy, at its most fundamental level, does not spread endlessly or thin itself into nothing. It comes in packets, tiny, complete units that cannot be divided any further. These are called quanta, and they are the quiet reason quantum physics has its name. Instead of a steady stream, nature chooses measured moments. Instead of a blur, it offers gentle beats. You can imagine this like breathing. There is no endless inhale. Each breath arrives, fills, and then releases. In the same way, energy appears, rests briefly, and moves on. There is rhythm in this, a natural pacing that never hurries and never lingers too long. The universe counts softly, even when we're not listening. Light behaves this way too. When it interacts with matter, it does not give just any amount of energy. It offers exactly what is needed, no more, no less. This quiet precision keeps atoms stable, stars burning calmly, and the night sky glowing without chaos. Reality remains gentle because it is measured. As you lie here listening, notice how comforting this idea can be. The universe is not overwhelming you with infinite motion. It is offering reality in manageable pieces, moments, pulses, heartbeats of existence. Just as sleep does not arrive all at once, but in layers, reality itself builds softly from these small contributions. This way of being reminds us that nothing requires constant effort. Even the universe rests between actions. There are pauses built into the fabric of existence. Stillness is not an interruption. It is part of the design, and in those pauses balance is maintained. Let your thoughts adopt this rhythm now. Instead of flowing endlessly, allow them to come and go. A thought appears, it rests, it fades. There is no need to chase the next one. The quantum world shows us that completion does not require continuity, only presence. Reality at its deepest level is kind enough to arrive in pieces, and tonight you can rest in between them. Light is one of the gentlest teachers in quantum physics. It never insists on being only one thing. Sometimes it spreads, sometimes it arrives, and sometimes it does both at once, without conflict, without confusion. Light moves through the universe with a quiet flexibility, adapting to the moment rather than defining itself too early. When light travels freely, it behaves like a wave. It flows outward, overlapping with itself, creating soft patterns of brightness and shadow. You can imagine it like ripples on a calm lake, expanding slowly, touching many places at once. There's nothing sharp about this motion. It is continuous, graceful, and patient. But when light interacts, when it is absorbed or released, it behaves like a particle. It arrives in those small packets of energy, gentle taps rather than floods. The wave gathers itself, becomes precise for a moment, and then dissolves back into flow. Light does not struggle with this change. It does not need to choose one identity forever. This wave-particle duality can feel strange when we first hear about it, but there is nothing unnatural here. It is simply another example of the universe refusing to be rushed into definitions. Light waits until the moment of interaction before deciding how it will appear. Until then, it remains open. As you listen, notice how this mirrors your own experience as you drift towards sleep. Your thoughts are sometimes clear and defined, like particles. At other times, they spread and blur, like waves. Neither state is better, neither is permanent. Both belong. Quantum physics does not ask us to force reality into tidy boxes. It invites us to accept that things can be more than one thing, depending on how they are met. Light teaches us that flexibility is not weakness, it is harmony. Tonight, you don't need to decide who you are or what you're thinking. You can be clear for a moment, then diffuse again. Focused, then drifting. The universe allows this. Light allows this. And so can you. Let the image of light flowing and arriving settle gently in your mind. It knows when to spread. It knows when to touch. There is a quiet principle at the heart of quantum physics that speaks not of limits, but of balance. It tells us that there are some pairs of things we cannot know perfectly at the same time, not because we are careless, not because our tools are weak, but because the universe itself prefers a softer arrangement. This is known as uncertainty, but it is not an anxious kind of uncertainty. It is not the uncertainty of being lost. It is the uncertainty of giving something space to move. At the quantum level, the more clearly we know where something is, the less precisely we can know how it is moving. And when we know its motion very well, its position becomes less defined. Reality gently shifts to keep its freedom. You can imagine trying to watch a small fish beneath still water at night. If you focus tightly on where it is, its movement becomes harder to sense. If you watch the movement of the water instead, the exact position of the fish fades. Nothing is wrong, nothing is broken. You're simply seeing one aspect more clearly than the other. The universe works this way too. It does not offer total control. It offers relationship. Knowing one thing deeply means loosening your grip on something else. And somehow, this trade keeps everything stable. It prevents the smallest parts of reality from becoming frozen or trapped. As you rest here, let this idea soften your thoughts. You do not need to hold everything clearly in mind. You do not need to track every detail of your day. The more you release the need to know precisely where every thought is going, the more gently your mind can move. Sleep itself follows this principle. When you try to control it, it slips away. When you stop measuring it, it arrives. The mind cannot be pinned down and rested at the same time. It needs space. It needs uncertainty. Quantum physics does not criticize us for not knowing everything. It shows us that not knowing is part of how reality stays alive, and in that gentle truth there is permission to rest. Tonight, allow your thoughts to be imprecise. Allow your awareness to soften. Nothing important will be lost. In the quantum world, particles do not rush to declare where they are. Before they appear in one place, they exist as many gentle possibilities at once, not scattered, not confused, simply open. They wait in a kind of quiet readiness, like a thought before it becomes a word. This state is often called a superposition, but you don't need the name. What matters is the feeling of it. A particle is not hiding. It is not undecided. It is calmly allowing more than one outcome to be real at the same time. Only when it interacts, only when something touches it, notices it, or shares energy with it, does it choose a single expression. You can imagine this like standing at the edge of sleep. You're not fully awake, but not yet dreaming. Images drift in and out. Sensations overlap. Nothing insists on being clear. This in-between state is not empty, it is rich. And when sleep finally arrives, it doesn't feel like a sudden change. It feels like a gentle settling. Particles behave in a similar way. they rest in possibility, not as a problem to be solved, but as a natural state. Possibility is their home. Definition is something they visit briefly, then leave behind. There is something deeply calming about this. The universe does not demand that everything be decided all the time. It allows openness. It allows waiting. It allows the future to remain soft until the present calls for clarity. As you lie here listening, you are allowed to do the same. You do not need to decide what tomorrow will look like. You do not need to resolve unfinished thoughts. You can exist in a gentle superposition of rest and awareness, drifting without choosing. Quantum physics reminds us that being undefined is not the same as being lost. It is often the most natural way to be. Possibility is not chaos. It is calm potential. Let your thoughts spread out a little now. They don't need to land anywhere yet. They can simply remain possible. When we imagine atoms, we often picture tiny solid spheres packed tightly together, forming the structure of everything we touch. But when we look more closely, very closely, we find something much quieter, something more spacious. An atom is not a crowded place. It is mostly stillness. At the center of an atom is a small, dense core, and around it, electrons drift in wide regions of possibility. Between them is vast emptiness. Not emptiness as in nothingness, but emptiness as in openness. Space that allows balance. Space that allows movement without collision. The atom is less like a pebble and more like a soft, invisible system held together by calm relationships. This means that everything around you, your body, the floor beneath you, the air resting on your skin, is built mostly from space, from quiet distance, from room to breathe. Solidity is an experience, not a crowding. What feels firm is actually supported by gentle forces keeping things in place without touching. As you lie here, letting your body sink into rest, notice how fitting this feels. Your body does not need to be tense to exist. Your thoughts do not need to be dense to be real. Like the atom, you're allowed to be mostly space. Inside every atom, there is no noise, no friction, no effort, just balance. Forces holding position without strain. This quiet architecture is everywhere, supporting you now, asking nothing in return. The stillness inside an atom reminds us that rest is not something added at the end of activity. It is built in from the beginning. The universe itself is spacious at its core. Let that spaciousness spread through you, through your chest, through your limbs. You're supported quietly. There is a moment in the quantum world that is so quiet it almost feels like nothing is happening at all. It is the moment before a measurement, before a question is asked, before reality is invited to choose a single answer. In this pause, the universe rests, when nothing is being observed, nothing is being forced to appear. Particles do not hurry to declare themselves. They remain spread gently across possibility, unbothered by precision. This is not disorder. It is peace. A deep, natural stillness where existence is allowed to remain soft. You can imagine this silence as a wide open field at night. No footsteps, no voices, just the faint presence of potential. Everything that could happen held quietly in place. The field does not need to become anything right now. It is complete as it is. In our waking lives, we're often measuring without realizing it. Measuring progress, measuring success, measuring whether we are tired enough to sleep yet. But the quantum world reminds us that rest happens most easily when measurement stops. When we stop checking, counting, and defining. Between measurements, there is no pressure to perform, no expectation to be somewhere specific. Reality itself relaxes into openness, and so can you. Right now, there is nothing you need to observe closely, nothing you need to label. Your awareness can soften, widening instead of narrowing. This silence is not empty. It is full of quiet balance. It is the space where things remain gentle, uncollapsed, and free. In this pause, the universe trusts itself to unfold later, when the moment is right. Let yourself rest in that trust. No one is watching. Nothing needs to happen. You're allowed to remain undefined. Some connections in the universe do not fade with distance. In the quantum world, particles can become linked in a way that ignores space entirely. Once connected, they remain softly aware of each other, even when separated by vast stretches of emptiness. This phenomenon is called entanglement, but its feeling is simpler than its name. Entangled particles do not send messages back and forth. They do not rush information across space. Their connection is quieter than that. It is as if they share a single story, written once, then carried together wherever they go. When one changes, the other reflects that change instantly, not because of speed, but because they were never truly separate. You can imagine this like two notes struck at the same time on a piano, still resonating together even after the sound has faded. The air between them does not matter. The connection exists in the harmony itself. This idea can feel comforting when we let it settle. It suggests that closeness is not always about proximity, that some bonds remain even when we cannot see or touch. In a universe built on quiet relationships, distance loses its sharpness. As you rest here, you may think of someone far away, or a place you once felt safe. Quantum physics offers a gentle reminder that connection does not always need maintenance. Some connections simply are. They persist without effort. Your own body is a web of such quiet relationships, parts working together without conversation, systems staying in balance without instruction. Entanglement is not rare, it is foundational. Let the idea of quiet connection ease you further into rest. You're not isolated, you're part of a larger harmony unfolding softly. In the everyday world, distance feels important. Near and far shape how we move, how we wait, how we connect. But in the quantum world, distance begins to soften. It does not disappear completely, but it no longer carries the same weight. Space becomes less like a barrier and more like a gentle suggestion. When particles are entangled, the space between them does not weaken their relationship. Whether they are close together or separated by great stretches of emptiness, their connection remains intact. It is as if space itself steps aside, allowing the relationship to exist without interference. This challenges our usual sense of separation. We are used to thinking that things must touch to affect one another, that influence fades with distance. But quantum physics shows us that some influences are not carried through space at all. They are woven into the structure of reality itself. As you lie here, notice how your body already understands this. Sensations travel without effort. A breath taken in one place affects muscles far away. Calm in the chest softens the jaw. Everything communicates quietly, without delay. The quantum world mirrors this internal harmony. Distance becomes less about separation and more about arrangement. Things can be apart without being disconnected. They can be distant without being distant in feeling. This idea can bring a deep sense of ease. It suggests that you do not need to hold everything close to stay connected. You can release your grip. You can let go. What truly belongs with you will remain quietly aligned. Let the concept of distance relax now. There is nowhere you need to reach. Everything essential is already present. In the quantum world, observation is not a distant act. It is not something that happens from the outside. To observe is to participate gently and inevitably. When something is noticed, it does not simply reveal itself, it responds. This does not mean that consciousness controls reality, or that the universe waits for our thoughts. It means something quieter. It means that interaction matters. When particles meet other particles, when energy is exchanged, when systems touch, reality takes shape. Observation is just one form of this meeting. You can imagine it like placing your hand into warm water. The water does not change because you demanded it to. It changes because contact occurred, temperature adjusts, motion shifts. Both the water and your hand participate in the moment together. In quantum physics, measuring is a kind of touch. It is not neutral, it is relational, and because of this, the universe never unfolds alone. Everything becomes real in conversation with something else. As you listen now, you're not separate from this story. Your body, your breath, your quiet awareness are part of the same fabric. You do not have to watch your thoughts closely. Even listening lightly is enough. Participation does not require effort. This can be deeply comforting. It suggests that you do not need to manage your inner world perfectly. Simply being present, softly, imperfectly, is already enough to allow things to settle. Let your awareness rest gently, without focus. Nothing needs to be examined. Nothing needs to be fixed. You are already part of the unfolding. In the quantum world, movement does not always follow a single path. Instead of choosing one direction and committing fully, particles spread their potential gently across many possibilities. This spread is described as a wave of probability, a soft map of where something might be, rather than a declaration of where it is. These probability waves do not rush, they drift. They extend quietly through space, touching many places at once, like a slow breath filling a room. Nothing here is frantic, nothing is urgent. The wave does not insist on becoming real right away. It waits. You can imagine this wave like fog rolling gently across a field at dawn. The fog does not decide which blade of grass it will rest on. It simply arrives everywhere lightly, leaving the moment of settling for later. In the same way, probability spreads first, and certainty follows only when needed. This is how the universe allows flexibility without chaos. Possibility moves ahead of reality, preparing the way without forcing an outcome. It is a remarkably patient system, one that values openness more than speed. As you rest, your own thoughts may begin to feel like this. Not sharp ideas, but soft impressions. Not conclusions, but directions. You do not need to finish any mental journey tonight. You can let your awareness drift forward gently, without destination. Probability waves remind us that the future does not arrive all at once. It approaches gradually, testing many paths before choosing one. And even then, the choice is quiet. Let your mind follow this pattern now, spread gently, drift without effort. Nothing needs to resolve yet. In our everyday experience, time feels steady and reliable. It moves forward at the same pace, carrying moments with it, one after another. But as we look more closely, especially through the lens of quantum physics, time begins to soften. It feels less like a rigid line and more like a gentle current. At the smallest scales, events do not always unfold in a neat sequence. Cause and effect can blur. The idea of before and after loses some of its firmness. Instead of a strict order, there's a kind of overlap, where moments seem to lean into one another rather than standing apart. This does not mean that time is broken or chaotic. It means that time is flexible. It adapts to context. It stretches and compresses quietly, depending on how things interact. The universe is not in a hurry to move forward. It allows moments to exist as long as they need to. You may notice something similar as you grow sleepy. Minutes stop feeling precise. A short thought can feel long. A long pause can feel brief. Time loosens its grip as awareness softens. This is not a mistake. It is a natural transition. Quantum physics reminds us that time is not something pressing down on us. It is something we move within, gently. And when we stop measuring it closely, it becomes kinder. Tonight, you do not need to keep track of passing moments. You do not need to know how long you have been listening. Let time blur around the edges. Let it slow where it wants to slow. In the quantum world and in sleep, time becomes a quiet companion, not a ruler, and you are free to drift alongside it. There is a deeper kind of rest that appears when nothing asks to be resolved, when questions are allowed to remain open, when outcomes are not demanded. In the quantum world, uncertainty is not a flaw in understanding. It is a resting place. Uncertainty here does not feel sharp or anxious. It feels wide, spacious, like standing beneath a night sky where no single star needs to be named. Everything exists without explanation, and that is enough. The universe does not rush to clarify itself. It allows ambiguity to breathe. At this depth, particles are not struggling to decide where they are. They're not racing towards certainty. They remain gently suspended, held by probability, supported by relationship rather than definition. This suspension is stable, it is calm, it is deeply balanced. As you lie here, notice how much effort it takes to hold certainty, to replay conversations, to plan outcomes, to measure whether you're relaxed enough yet. Now imagine setting all of that down, not solving it, just releasing it, letting uncertainty take its place like a soft blanket. You do not need to know what tomorrow will bring. You do not need to understand everything you feel. Your body already knows how to rest without instructions. Your breath continues without being monitored. Your heart keeps its rhythm without explanation. This is the same trust the quantum world lives by. A trust that things can remain unresolved and still be whole. A trust that balance does not require clarity. Stay here for a while, in this wide, quiet space where nothing collapses into answers, where nothing needs to be measured, where existence itself seems to pause, not because it has stopped, but because it is content. Let uncertainty hold you. It is gentler than control, and far more restful. Even what we call empty space is never truly empty. In the quantum world, the quietest regions still carry a soft hum of activity. Tiny presences appear and fade so quickly that they leave no trace. These are often called virtual particles, but their story is less dramatic than it sounds. They are not visitors arriving with purpose. They are brief fluctuations, small borrowings of energy that appear, exist for a moment, and then return what they took. Nothing is gained, nothing is lost. Balance is maintained without effort. You can imagine this like a gentle ripple passing across a still pond. The surface moves slightly, then smooths itself again. The water does not remember the ripple. It does not need to. The pond remains calm. This quiet borrowing does not disturb the universe. It supports it. These fleeting presences help stabilize forces, soften interactions, and maintain harmony at the smallest scales. Even in emptiness, there is care. As you rest, notice how similar this is to the way thoughts come and go. A thought appears briefly. borrows your attention, then fades. You do not need to chase it or push it away. It leaves on its own, returning the space it occupied. The quantum world teaches us that not every appearance needs a story. Some things exist only to pass through, and that is enough. Let the idea of gentle borrowing soothe you now. Nothing is taking from you. Everything that comes will also go. When we hear the word vacuum, we often imagine perfect nothingness, a complete absence, a silent void where nothing exists and nothing happens. But in the quantum world, emptiness has a different character. It is not barren, it is quietly alive. Even when all particles are removed, even when temperature falls towards stillness, space itself continues to hum with gentle activity. Fields remain, possibility remains. The vacuum is less like an empty room, and more like a calm breath held between exhales. This kind of emptiness is supportive rather than hollow. It allows things to appear without resistance. It gives space for motion without crowding. The universe seems to prefer this kind of openness, a background that does not interfere yet never disappears. You can feel something similar inside yourself right now. Between thoughts, there are small pauses. Between breaths, there is a brief stillness. These moments are not blank, they are restful. They hold everything together. Quantum physics reminds us that emptiness is not something to fear. It is a foundation. Without this gentle openness, nothing could move, change, or rest. The vacuum is what allows balance to exist. As you lie here, allow yourself to rest in this idea. You do not need to fill every space with thought or feeling. The quiet moments are doing important work, even when they feel like nothing at all. Emptiness can be kind, silence can be full, and rest can exist without effort. In the quantum world, energy does not behave like a force that pushes or demands. It behaves more like a conversation, quiet, measured, and mutual. Energy is exchanged gently in small amounts, only when something is ready to receive it. Nothing is forced, nothing is wasted. When particles interact, they do not collide harshly, they respond. One offers energy, another accepts it. The exchange happens softly, like two voices lowering themselves to match each other. This is how atoms remain stable, how molecules form, how matter holds its shape without strain. You can imagine this as a calm dialogue between breath and body. The breath arrives, the body responds, the breath leaves, the body adjusts. There is no command, only cooperation. This is the rhythm energy follows throughout the universe. Even light, when it gives energy to an atom, does so with precision and restraint. It offers exactly what is needed. No more, no less. The atom accepts only what fits. This quiet agreement keeps the universe from becoming overwhelming. As you rest, notice how your body already understands this language. Tension releases when it is ready. Muscles soften when they feel safe. Nothing needs to be ordered to relax. Energy redistributes itself naturally when you stop interfering. Quantum physics shows us that balance is not achieved through control, but through listening. Energy flows best when it's allowed to move in response, not in command. Let your own energy settle into conversation now. Nothing needs to be pushed. Everything will find its place. In the everyday world, barriers feel absolute. Walls stop movement. Doors define where we can and cannot go. If something does not have enough energy, it simply cannot pass through. But at the quantum level, barriers soften. They become suggestions rather than commands. Quantum tunneling describes a gentle and surprising behavior. Sometimes a particle appears on the other side of a barrier without ever crossing it in the way we expect. It does not break the wall. It does not force its way through. It simply appears beyond it, as if the barrier was never quite solid to begin with. This happens because particles are not tiny objects pushing forward with determination. They are waves of possibility, and sometimes that wave extends just far enough to allow the particle to be found where it statistically should not be. No effort, no struggle, just a quiet allowance. You can think of this like a thought drifting through the edge of sleep. One moment you are aware of the room around you, the next you are somewhere else entirely, without remembering a transition. The mind does not push through a barrier, it slips gently past it. The universe allows this softness too. It does not insist that all limits be rigid. At the smallest scales, nature leaves room for grace. Barriers exist, but they are permeable to patience. As you rest, you may notice that some mental barriers are already fading. The line between thinking and dreaming becomes thin. Worries lose their edges. What once felt blocked begins to feel distant. Quantum tunneling reminds us that not all progress requires effort. Sometimes passing through happens when we stop trying to push at all. Let yourself drift beyond any remaining boundaries now. You don't need momentum. You don't need force, just quiet allowance. There is something deeply soothing about the idea that even walls are not absolute. In the quantum world, what appears solid from a distance becomes soft when approached gently enough. Barriers remain, but they lose their authority. They no longer command, they simply exist. Quantum tunneling shows us this in its quietest form. A particle does not gather strength. It does not prepare or decide. It does not overcome. Instead, it rests in possibility long enough that the idea of inside and outside becomes less important. The wall does not resist. The particle does not struggle. The moment simply resolves on the other side. This is not force. This is patience. Imagine lying in bed as sleep approaches. At first, thoughts feel like walls, unfinished tasks, lingering images, faint concerns. But as you stop engaging with them, they begin to thin, not because you solved them, but because you stopped pressing against them. Awareness becomes wider than the boundary, and suddenly you are beyond it. The universe seems to understand this deeply. It does not ask its smallest parts to fight their way forward. It allows them to pass when the conditions are soft enough, when resistance is low, when nothing is being demanded. In this anchor moment, allow yourself to stop pushing entirely. You do not need to move towards sleep. You do not need to cross into it. Let sleep come to you the way the quantum world allows passage. Quietly, indirectly, without effort. Your body already knows how to do this. Muscles loosen without instruction. Breathing deepens without command. Awareness drifts without being told where to go. You are not failing to stay awake. You are succeeding at letting go. Walls only feel solid when we lean against them. When we rest instead, they become transparent. And passage happens naturally. Stay here. There is nowhere else to be. In the quantum world, some qualities exist without needing to move at all. One of these is something called spin. Despite its name, it is not a particle rotating like a tiny planet. There is no turning, no axis, no motion to picture. Spin is an internal rhythm, a quiet characteristic that simply is. You can think of it less as movement and more as identity, a gentle orientation, a way that a particle relates to the world around it without ever changing position. It does not tire, it does not accelerate, it remains steady, like a calm note held in the background of a song. This kind of stillness within motion can feel familiar as you rest. Your body lies still, yet processes continue. Your heart keeps time. Your breath flows. Awareness hums quietly, even as thoughts begin to dissolve. Nothing needs to move dramatically for life to continue. Quantum spin reminds us that not all activity requires effort. Some things persist simply because they are part of what something is. There is comfort in that, a sense that existence does not always need to perform. As you listen, allow yourself to feel this internal steadiness. You do not need to change your posture. You do not need to adjust your breath. Whatever rhythm you are in right now is already enough. In the deepest layers of reality, stability does not come from motion. It comes from balance, and balance does not ask to be noticed. Throughout the quantum world, there is a quiet preference for balance. Not the rigid balance of perfect stillness, but a living balance. One that allows movement without collapse, change without loss. This balance often appears as symmetry, a gentle fairness woven into the structure of reality. Symmetry in quantum physics does not mean that everything looks the same. It means that the underlying rules remain calm and consistent, even as appearances shift. A particle may move, transform, or exchange energy, yet the deeper patterns remain steady, like a horizon that stays level no matter where you stand. You can imagine symmetry as the way your body balances without effort. You do not consciously calculate how to sit or lie comfortably. The body adjusts quietly, redistributing weight, easing tension, maintaining harmony on its own. Balance is not enforced, it emerges. In the quantum world, symmetry helps keep the universe gentle. It prevents sudden extremes. It ensures that actions have quiet counterparts, that changes are met with subtle responses. This is why matter remains stable, why forces do not spiral out of control, why the smallest structures endure. As you rest, notice how your inner world seeks this same softness. When one thought fades, another softens with it. When the breath deepens, the body responds by relaxing further. Everything is adjusting quietly, without instruction. Quantum symmetry teaches us that balance does not require vigilance. It arises naturally when nothing is being pushed too hard. Tonight you do not need to hold yourself together. The same gentle rules that balance particles are already balancing you. Let that idea settle now. You're being held in symmetry. Nothing is tipping too far. Everything is softly aligned. In the quantum world, many things are born together. Particles often come in pairs, not as opposites in conflict, but as complements in balance. When one appears, another quietly accompanies it, each carrying a quality that completes the whole. This pairing is not dramatic. It is calm, natural, and deeply harmonious. These paired particles do not compete. One does not overpower the other. Instead, they share responsibility for balance. Where one leans in one direction, the other leans gently the opposite way. Together, they allow the universe to remain steady, preventing excess and easing extremes. You can imagine this like the rhythm of breathing. Inhale and exhale arise together as a cycle. One does not make sense without the other. Neither is better, both are necessary, and both arrive in their own time. The body does not argue with this rhythm, it trusts it. Quantum pairs behave with the same trust. Their properties are linked, their behaviors coordinated even when they move apart. The harmony established at their beginning remains, quietly guiding how they exist. As you listen now, notice how your own experience is full of these gentle pairings, wakefulness and rest, attention and release, thought and silence. One flows into the other without effort. When you stop resisting this movement, balance becomes easier. The universe does not build itself from isolated pieces. It builds itself from relationships, from pairs that hold each other in place without tension. This is not complexity, it is care. Let yourself rest inside this natural harmony. Nothing needs to be resolved alone. Everything arrives with support. Beneath particles, beneath motion, beneath even the idea of objects themselves, the quantum world reveals something quieter still. Not things, but fields. Continuous, gentle presences that exist everywhere at once, even when nothing seems to be happening. A field is not an object you can point to. It does not sit in one place. It stretches softly across space, holding the potential for particles to appear, interact, and fade. Particles are like brief ripples on these fields, temporary expressions rather than permanent structures. When the ripple passes, the field remains. You can imagine a field like a calm ocean at night. The surface may be smooth or lightly disturbed, but the water itself is always there, supporting whatever moves across it. Waves come and go. The ocean does not need to follow them. It simply holds. In this view, reality is not built from solid pieces stacked together. It is built from gentle backgrounds that allow form to arise without effort. The universe feels less mechanical and more nurturing, like a space that welcomes events, then lets them go. As you rest, notice how your own awareness behaves like a field. Thoughts appear within it. Sensations drift through. Sounds rise and fall. But your awareness itself remains steady, open and unchanged. You do not chase each thought. You do not cling to each feeling. You simply allow them to pass. Quantum fields remind us that stability does not come from holding on. It comes from being present and wide enough to contain change. Nothing needs to be fixed in place to be real. Let your awareness widen now. Be the field, not the ripple. Everything that appears will be held and gently released. Imagine being held without hands, supported without pressure, suspended without effort. This is the feeling the quantum field offers, a presence everywhere at once, steady and patient, asking nothing in return. In this deepest layer of reality, nothing needs to be carried. Everything is already held. A quantum field does not rush. It does not react sharply. It remains quietly, allowing events to appear and fade within it. Particles come and go like brief glimmers, but the field stays calm beneath them all. It is not empty. It is attentive in a quiet way, like the night sky holding stars without strain. As you rest here, let your body borrow this feeling. You do not need to support yourself. The surface beneath you is doing that. Gravity is doing that. The steady rules of the universe are doing that. You can allow your muscles to soften further, knowing that nothing will fall apart if you let go. Notice the sensation of floating, not upward, not away, but gently within. Your breath moves through you like a slow current through water. Your awareness drifts, not toward anything in particular, but within a wide, steady space. There is no edge you need to find. In the quantum field, nothing demands attention. It does not ask to be understood. It simply exists, offering a place for things to happen. This is the same kind of rest sleep offers, a background that holds dreams without directing them. If a thought appears, let it float. If it fades, let it fade. You do not need to follow. You do not need to return. The field remains whether you notice it or not. Stay here a little longer, floating, supported, unbothered by movement. There is nothing to solve, nothing to become, only a gentle presence, holding you quietly. From the quietest fluctuations, the universe begins its longest stories. What starts as a barely noticeable ripple in a quantum field can, over vast stretches of time, become something luminous and immense. Stars, galaxies, and entire cosmic structures trace their origins back to these subtle beginnings. Soft variations that were never hurried. In the early universe, everything was close together, warm and gently vibrating. Tiny differences in energy, so small they would feel insignificant, were allowed to remain. They were not smoothed away. They were not corrected. Instead, gravity listened to them patiently, amplifying them over time, giving them room to grow. This is how the vast emerges from the small, not through force, but through persistence. A quiet ripple becomes a slow gathering. A gathering becomes a glow. And eventually stars ignite not suddenly, but as a natural continuation of something that began almost invisibly. As you rest, consider how many things in your own life have grown this way. A habit formed from a small kindness. A sense of safety built from repeated calm moments. Sleep itself arriving not all at once, but through many small softening steps. Quantum physics shows us that beginnings do not need to announce themselves. They can whisper. The universe listens just as carefully to whispers as it does to shouts. Let this thought settle as your awareness continues to drift. Even the brightest things begin quietly, and rest too grows from gentle origins. The universe does not separate the small from the large. It weaves them together patiently, allowing the tiniest rules to guide the grandest forms. What happens at the quantum scale? Soft probabilities, gentle fluctuations, quiet balances, slowly shapes everything that follows. A minute difference in energy becomes a slight preference. A slight preference becomes a direction. Over time, these directions accumulate, guiding matter into streams, clusters, and eventually galaxies. Nothing dramatic is required. No single moment stands out. The vast is shaped by countless small allowances. This is a comforting thought. It tells us that importance does not depend on size or visibility. The smallest influences matter, even when they go unnoticed. In the quantum world, nothing is wasted. Every gentle variation contributes to the whole. As you rest now, notice how small sensations guide your body towards sleep. A deeper exhale, a subtle warmth in the limbs, a quiet release behind the eyes. None of these are large changes, yet together they carry you somewhere softer. The universe builds itself the same way, not with sudden leaps, but with steady accumulation. It trusts that small things given time will know what to become. You do not need to rush toward rest. Each gentle moment is already doing its work. The tiny is shaping the vast, and you are drifting right on schedule. When we step back far enough, time begins to feel less like a rule and more like a sensation. In the quantum view, time does not always stand at the beginning of events, ordering them neatly. Instead, it seems to arise from change itself, from relationships shifting, from interactions unfolding gently. At the smallest scales, processes can occur without a clear sense of before or after. Events overlap, possibilities coexist. Only when patterns repeat, when systems interact consistently, does time begin to feel like a steady flow. Time, then, is not something imposed on the universe. It is something the universe gradually learns to feel. You can notice this in your own experience right now. As you relax, time may feel stretched or blurred. A long pause might feel brief. A brief thought might feel expansive. This is not confusion. It is a return to a softer way of experiencing moments, closer to how the quantum world unfolds. When you stop measuring time, it stops pressing on you. It becomes spacious, friendly, almost invisible. Sleep thrives in this environment where moments are not counted but allowed. Quantum physics suggests that time is not a force pushing you forward. It is a quiet companion that emerges when needed, then fades when not. You're not late, you're not early. You're exactly where the unfolding places you. Let time loosen its shape now. There is no schedule to follow, only a gentle sequence of rest, arriving naturally. In the quantum world, memory is not stored like a record in a book. There are no pages carefully filed away, no single place where the past waits to be retrieved. Instead, memory lives softly in patterns, in probabilities that have been shaped by what has happened before. Every interaction leaves a faint imprint, not a mark you can point to, but a tendency, a leaning, a quiet influence on what is likely to happen next. The universe remembers by becoming slightly more inclined in one direction than another. It carries its history not as a story, but as a feeling. You can imagine this like the way a path forms through tall grass. No single step creates it, but over time, the grass bends more easily where others have walked before. The path is not carved or forced. It emerges gently through repetition and allowance. In the same way, quantum systems remember their past without holding on to it tightly. The past does not press forward demanding attention. It simply softens certain possibilities and makes others less likely. Memory becomes guidance, not burden. As you lie here, notice how your own memories behave when you're tired. They lose their sharpness. They stop insisting on detail. What remains is a mood, a tone, a sense of what felt safe or familiar. This is memory in its gentlest form. Quantum physics suggests that remembering does not require replaying. It requires only a subtle shaping of what comes next. And as you drift towards sleep, even that shaping begins to relax. You do not need to revisit the day to carry it with you. The universe remembers quietly, and you are allowed to rest without review. When we think about consciousness, we often imagine clarity, awareness as something sharp and well-defined. But when consciousness meets the quantum world, it encounters uncertainty not as a problem, but as a companion. Both exist comfortably without demanding firm edges. Quantum physics does not claim that the mind controls reality. Instead, it suggests something softer, that awareness and uncertainty can coexist without conflict. Consciousness does not need complete information to be present. It does not need certainty to function. In fact, it often feels most at ease when certainty loosens. You may notice this as you grow sleepy. Awareness remains, but it becomes diffuse. You are conscious, yet not focused. Thoughts drift through without attachment. Sensations are felt, but not examined. This is consciousness resting inside uncertainty, not resisting it. The quantum world behaves similarly. It does not rush to define itself. It allows multiple outcomes to remain open until interaction gently closes them. Consciousness too can remain open, aware without deciding, present without directing. This meeting of awareness and uncertainty is deeply restful. It removes the pressure to understand, to control, to predict. It allows experience to be exactly as it is, without commentary. As you listen now, let your awareness soften further. You do not need to follow every word. You do not need to remember this moment later. Simply being here, quietly conscious, gently uncertain, is enough. In this space, mind and universe share the same language. Open, patient, at rest together. Life does not unfold from certainty alone. It grows, adapts, and continues because the universe allows room for surprise. At the quantum level, unpredictability is not an error in the system, it is a feature. A gentle openness that gives life space to explore many paths instead of being locked into one. The smallest fluctuations, the tiniest variations create opportunities. A molecule forms slightly differently. A reaction proceeds with a subtle change. Over time, these small differences allow complexity to emerge. Cells learn. Organisms adapt. Life becomes resilient not by controlling every outcome, but by remaining flexible. You can feel this truth in your own body. Life continues without your supervision. Your heart adjusts its rhythm. Your breathing changes with your needs. Healing happens quietly, often without awareness. Life does not wait for certainty to act. It moves forward gently, guided by responsiveness rather than precision. As you drift closer to sleep, unpredictability becomes a comfort rather than a threat. Dreams form without planning. Images shift without logic. The mind allows itself to wander because it no longer needs to manage the path. This is life trusting the unknown. Quantum physics shows us that life is not fragile because of uncertainty. It is strong because of it. The ability to respond, to adjust, to remain open is what allows continuity. Control is not required. Participation is enough. Let this understanding ease you further into rest. You do not need to predict tomorrow. Life knows how to continue quietly. There is a particular kind of relief that arrives when we realize we are not responsible for holding everything together. In the quantum world, control is not a central principle. Outcomes are not micromanaged. Instead, reality unfolds through gentle rules that allow variation, adjustment, and rest. At the smallest scales, nothing is steering every detail. Particles follow probabilities, not instructions. Fields respond, not command. Balance emerges naturally, without anyone forcing it into place. And somehow, from this lack of control, the universe remains stable, creative, and calm. This can feel deeply reassuring. It suggests that order does not depend on constant effort. That harmony does not require supervision. Things are allowed to find their way, guided by soft constraints rather than rigid plans. As you lie here, consider how much energy control requires. Holding thoughts tightly, managing outcomes, replaying moments. Now notice how your body behaves when you stop doing that. Muscles release, breathing deepens, awareness spreads instead of narrowing. Rest arrives not because you caused it, but because you allowed it. Quantum physics offers permission to let go. It shows us that even reality itself does not cling to certainty. It trusts process, it trusts relationship, it trusts time to do its quiet work. Tonight you do not need to guide your mind into sleep. You do not need to monitor whether it is happening correctly. Sleep is not something you achieve. It is something that happens when control loosens. Let yourself rest in that comfort now. Nothing depends on you holding it all together. The universe is already doing that, softly. Earlier, we allowed a gentle question to settle beside us. A question without urgency. A question that did not ask to be answered. What if the universe was never meant to be fully certain? Now, as your thoughts grow slower and softer, we return to that question. Not to solve it, but to feel it differently. After drifting through particles and fields, through uncertainty and quiet balance, the question no longer feels unsettling. It feels familiar, almost comforting. The universe has shown us that openness is not a weakness. It is a way of staying alive, flexible, and kind to itself. Certainty, we begin to notice, is not the foundation of reality. Relationship is. interaction is. Gentle responsiveness is. The quantum world does not demand clarity at every moment, and because of that, it can rest between events. It can pause, it can wait, and so can you. Think of how different this feels now compared to the beginning of the night. The question has softened. It no longer presses against the mind. It rests like a smooth stone at the bottom of a quiet stream, present but not intrusive. You may notice that your own need for answers has faded as well. Thoughts pass without asking to be finished. Sensations arise without needing explanation. Awareness remains, but it no longer insists on direction. This is the gift of returning, not to the started point, but to a deeper understanding of it. The universe does not ask you to know everything. It invites you to rest inside what is unknown. Let the question dissolve now into a feeling rather than a thought, a feeling of ease, a feeling of trust, a feeling that nothing essential is missing. You're exactly where the unfolding has placed you, and here is enough. As the night deepens, the universe begins to feel less like something happening around you and more like something quietly listening with you, not judging, not directing, simply present. In the quantum view, reality is not a rigid script being followed line by line. It is a responsive system, attentive to interactions, sensitive to the smallest changes, patient enough to wait. Nothing in the universe insists on being heard above everything else. Even the most powerful forces operate softly at their foundations. They respond to conditions, they adapt, they listen before they act. This listening is not conscious in a human way, but it is deeply relational. The universe notices without interrupting. You can sense this same quality within yourself now. As your thoughts slow, awareness becomes more receptive. You are not pushing experience forward, you are allowing it to arrive. Sounds pass through gently. Sensations rise and fall. Nothing needs to be filtered or analysed. Everything is simply noticed, and then released. In quantum physics, outcomes emerge from interaction, not demand. Reality listens to the conditions around it and responds accordingly. This means there is no constant pressure to perform or decide. The universe is not waiting for you to do something right. It is already in conversation with you, quietly, through breath, through stillness, through rest. This can feel profoundly reassuring. You're not alone in this moment, not in a dramatic way, in a calm background way, like sitting beside someone who does not speak, but whose presence is steady and warm. Let yourself be listened to without speaking. Let the universe hold your silence. There is nothing you need to explain. As awareness continues to soften, listening becomes effortless, and rest deepens, naturally. Now, everything begins to settle, not because something has ended, but because nothing else needs to begin. The ideas that once moved gently through your awareness start to thin, like mist dissolving into the early morning air. They do not disappear suddenly, they simply lose their edges. Stillness is not emptiness, it is fullness without movement, a quiet completeness where nothing asks for attention. In the quantum world, this kind of stillness is everywhere, inside atoms, beneath fields, between interactions. It is the background that allows motion to happen without being overwhelmed by it. As you lie here, notice how your body already understands this state. Muscles rest into the surface beneath you. Breathing continues on its own, unobserved. Awareness no longer scans for meaning. It rests where it is, content to remain. There is no need to revisit what you've heard. The words have already done their work. Like gentle signals fading after they are received, they can now dissolve. understanding is no longer required. Presence is enough. In this settling, even the sense of being a listener begins to soften. You're not listening to something anymore. You're simply here, within the quiet. The boundary between attention and rest becomes thin, almost transparent. Quantum physics tells us that systems naturally return to balance when left undisturbed. Tonight, you are that system. Nothing is being asked of you. Nothing is being adjusted. Balance is finding you on its own. Let yourself remain in this stillness. No movement forward. No need to go back. Just a gentle pause, holding everything. Rest here. The night knows what to do next. Even as stillness deepens, there is a sense that something gentle has settled into place. Not an idea you need to remember, but a tone. A quiet way of being that does not end when words fade. The quantum calm lingers, like warmth remaining in a room after a light has been dimmed. This calm is not something new added to you. It is something familiar, quietly revealed. The same softness that governs the smallest scales of the universe also moves through your own inner world. It has always been there, beneath effort, beneath urgency, waiting to be noticed. As sleep approaches, you do not need to carry anything consciously. You are not asked to hold on to these thoughts or bring them with you into dreams. They will travel naturally the way gentle rhythms do, unnoticed, yet present. Quantum systems do not cling to their past states. They evolve smoothly, carrying forward only what is needed. In the same way, your mind can move into sleep without dragging the day behind it. What matters will remain. What does not will fade quietly. You may notice your awareness dipping now, rising briefly, then dipping again. This is natural. Like waves settling after a long journey, the motion slows, then softens into rest. There's no need to stay alert. There is no need to let go deliberately. The transition is already happening. The calm you've touched tonight is not confined to this moment. It is part of the larger flow you belong to, and as sleep arrives, it will continue to carry you gently forward without effort. Let that sense of continuity remain in the background. Nothing is ending. Everything is simply flowing on. Now, even the idea of thinking begins to loosen. Thoughts no longer arrive as sentences or images. They come as faint impressions, then fade before they can fully form. The mind is no longer interested in following them. It has learned that nothing needs to be carried forward. In the quantum world, this is familiar territory. At the deepest levels, distinctions soften. Boundaries blur. Things are no longer clearly separate from the space around them. What remains is not confusion, but unity. Quiet, undivided, and calm. As you drift here, notice how awareness feels wider than thought. You're not inside a stream of ideas anymore. You're resting in the space the stream flows through. Sensations may still appear, a subtle shift of breath, a distant sound, but they pass without commentary, leaving no trace behind. This is the point where effort fully dissolves. You're not trying to sleep. You're not trying to stay awake. You are simply allowing awareness to thin, like light, fading naturally at dusk. Nothing is being lost. Nothing needs to be protected. Quantum physics reminds us that when systems are left undisturbed, they settle into their lowest, calmest state. Tonight, that is happening within you. Not because you made it happen, but because nothing is interrupting it. Stay here, drifting beyond thought. No story, no direction, just a gentle absence of need. The universe is very quiet here, and so are you. At this depth of rest, separation begins to feel less important. The sense of here and there, of inside and outside, softens until it is barely noticeable. In the quantum world, this quiet unity has always been present. Everything is connected not by effort but by shared foundation. Particles, fields, space and time all arise from the same gentle background. They are not isolated pieces assembled together. They are expressions of one continuous reality, appearing in different ways depending on how they are touched, how they are observed, how they are allowed to be. As you rest now, you may feel something similar. Your body no longer feels like a collection of parts. It feels like one calm presence. Breath, warmth, and stillness blend together. Awareness does not move from place to place. It simply is. This unity is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It feels like simplicity, like the moment when you stop trying to hold everything apart and realize nothing needed to be separated in the first place. In quantum physics, this unity means that nothing exists entirely on its own. Everything belongs to something larger, something quieter, something patient, and so do you. You're not required to stand alone in this moment. You're supported by the same gentle structure that supports stars and silence alike. Let this sense of unity cradle you now. Nothing to distinguish, nothing to compare, only a single, calm presence, resting. Here, even the idea of rest dissolves. What remains is peace, without edges. Now, the space between moments grows longer. Awareness flickers softly, like a distant light seen through half-closed eyes. You're still here, but only loosely. Present, but without effort. The need to follow, to listen, to stay with each word has nearly faded. In this state, the mind no longer builds stories. It allows impressions to pass without forming them into meaning. A sound may arrive and disappear. A sensation may surface and dissolve. Nothing stays long enough to matter, and that is exactly right. Quantum physics speaks of ground states, the calmest condition a system can settle into when nothing disturbs it. This is not absence. It is rest at the deepest level. Energy is minimal. Motion is gentle. Everything is as quiet as it can be, while still existing. You are close to that now. Breath moves slowly, almost unnoticed. The body feels distant, yet safe. The boundary between listening and sleeping has thinned so much that it no longer needs to be crossed. It simply fades. If thoughts appear, they are soft and incomplete. If images form, they drift without clarity. There is no reason to follow them. They are already carrying you where you need to go. Nothing more will be asked of you tonight. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be finished. Just allow this gentle dimming to continue, like the universe settling into night. There is no clear moment when sleep begins, no line to cross, no signal to notice. It arrives, the way night settles over a landscape, gradually, evenly, without instruction. By now, awareness has thinned into something lighter than thought, softer than attention. In the quantum world, this is called the lowest energy state, not because something has been depleted, but because nothing needs to move anymore. The system is content, balanced, undisturbed. It is not striving to become anything else. You are there now. Breath continues, but it no longer needs to be felt. The body remains, but it no longer needs to be checked. Even the idea of you becomes less distinct, dissolving into a calm background presence. There is no listener here anymore, only rest. Everything you encountered tonight, particles, waves, uncertainty, connection, has gently guided you toward this point. Not as lessons, not as facts to remember, but as invitations to soften. And now even those invitations fade. There's nothing left to hold, nothing left to follow, nothing left to release. The universe does not rush past this state. It returns to it again and again, between every motion, beneath every change. And tonight, you rest there too. Everything flows. Sleep in that motion.